Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Breakfast with Bridgett. I'm your host, Bridgett Ellison. Good to be back with you on this Wednesday morning. I think I thought it was Tuesday a second ago. So if you see my Facebook post, I'm going to update that. A few days off, so, catching up. And of course, I made it back just in time to find out what's going on with Helene as everyone gets prepped. Of course, the Panhandle really bracing for the brunt of that. We have a few counties here in Central Florida also in the mix, and we've also got plenty of school closures because of this. So, it doesn't take a whole lot for there to be different impacts as far as schools, work, getting your property prepared. So we'll talk about those conditions and how they're going to change over the next 24 to 48 hours in just a second. We'll also take you to some of the counties and talk about the preps happening there. And then we'll take a look at some of the top stories. So first, we'll get over to the Pinpoint Weather Center on this September 25th. And Chief Meteorologist Candace Campos is here, and you've been tracking this thing for greater than a week now, Candace. And so here we are.
Yes. And it's a system that we knew was going to develop, but the big question was, where was it going to go? So that's now we are starting to really kind of fine tune those details. Yesterday, the big question was, where is that center? We had 3 hurricane hunters in the storm at the same time almost, or at least in the air at the same time, trying to find that center, confirm the center, confirm its intensity, its structure, and they were able to, so that at 11 a.m. they were able to officially call it a tropical storm. Before, it was just a potential tropical cyclone 9. But we are unfortunately going to be watching a system really grow in front of our eyes within the next 24 to 36 hours, going from a tropical storm, which is still packing a punch, by the way, across the Yucatan and Cuba, but will continue to almost double in wind speed by tomorrow afternoon. So we're going from a tropical storm to a Category 3 hurricane potentially before making landfall once again in the Big Bend area. It seems like that certainly has been that zone for landfalling storms within the last couple of years. So let's take it to the map, show you what we're talking about here. These are the main tropical takeaways, okay? So if there's anything you get out of this forecast for the next couple of minutes, it's going to be this graphic. Rapid intensification is likely. We are still talking about a major hurricane by tomorrow evening along the west coast. Squally weather starts as early as this afternoon, so after about 4 or 5 o'clock. Now, some people might be wondering, what's squally weather? It's that typical tropical weather where we will have all of a sudden a line comes in, the winds really start to pick up, the rain really comes down fast, could get that potential of a quick tropical tornado. Those are those quick spin-ups. They tend not to be very strong tornadoes, but could still cause some damage. So that's the squally weather we're talking about. But with a storm like this, it's not going to be all day from this evening through the next day or so. It's going to be those off and on waves of tropical downpours that we will be pinpointing. So how much rain could we see? As of right now, general 1 to 3 inches. But that doesn't mean that some of our areas can't add another 3 to 4, 4 to 5 inches of rainfall, all depending on how those squall lines kind of set up, right? Strong wind gusts, they could exceed tropical storm force winds. So we're talking 35 to 60 mile per hour gust, not sustain, but gusting, along with that tornado threat in the forecast. So this is the latest loop, looking a lot healthier right now on the satellite imagery. We're starting to get more of that symmetrical view just offshore of Cancun there, sustained winds of 65 miles per hour. We're seeing a lot of that convection really billowing up across the center. So with that being said, pretty much guaranteed chance that this will become a hurricane later on today. Then a Category 2 hurricane by Thursday morning with sustained winds over 100 miles per hour. And then again, going from 65 miles per hour this morning to 120. So almost double, not exactly, but still doubling its strength almost to 120 mile per hour sustained winds as it approaches the Big Bend there. Now, the forecast cone has narrowed. That is something we were expecting, of course, as we got a lot more of that data from the hurricane hunters, the crucial data, still showing that that center could go anywhere between Panama City to the west and Cedar Key to its east. So depending on how this system jogs and kind of wobbles, certainly will have that potential of bringing extremely life-threatening storm surge, winds, rain, tornado threat, all of that towards the Panhandle and further north. So let me just show you real quick the 7-day. We're talking about a 60% chance of rain for today, really starting up after about 4 o'clock. But then those rain chances and the severe threat, that tropical threat, increasing for your Thursday. I want to show you one of the reasons for that rapid intensification. It's called the loop current. It's basically an ocean current that goes from the Caribbean, scoops up real quick into the Gulf of Mexico, then turns back around into the Gulf Stream right there across the Florida Straits and then up the eastern seaboard. So there's a little pocket between Cancun and you see that 88-degree temperature right there. That is what we're talking about, the fuel. Hurricanes need low wind shear. They need moisture. But what they really feed off of is extremely warm ocean temperatures. And when we start talking about an area there with over 88-degree water temperature, that is gasoline. That is that fuel that storm needs. So 1, we're talking about a strong storm. 2, we're talking about a large storm. So tropical storm warnings, hurricane warnings are all in effect across Central Florida. Pretty much tropical storm warning for everyone. That hurricane warning is in effect just for Western Marion County. So let's talk about timeline, shall we? This is 4 o'clock today. The storm exceeding about 175 miles out of its center. So by this afternoon, we will be tapping into some of those rain bands already across our western zone. So after school activities could be a bit dicey by that point. So just want to let you know, although school is in session for everyone, that won't be the case tomorrow. So by 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock this evening, we will get pretty hairy weather. We're talking about gusty winds, those tropical downpours. Can't rule out the chance, by the way, of an isolated tornado warning embedded within some of these quick spirals, especially if we have plenty of heating throughout the day today. Then into the overnight between midnight and 3, we will see some of those rain bands skirting parts of the coastline as well. And speaking of the coast, just because this is a Gulf storm doesn't mean the Atlantic isn't going to get roughed up. When we talk about the immense size and girth of this storm, there will be that potential of seeing some pretty nasty weather along our coastline as well. Rough seas as well for the Atlantic. We could have a little bit of a lull between the rain bands. Remember, we were talking about that tropical environment where we will have waves of rain, but also waves of just clouds, right? But then by 1, 2 o'clock, rain chances crank back up. There you see on the corner of your screen, hurricane eventually will become Hurricane Helene making landfall. So those pockets of rain, although it's not going to be extremely widespread and continuous, some of these rain bands certainly could pack a punch. Then by Thursday, sundown, conditions should start to improve. Look at your wind gusts. This is 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. Will certainly be breezy. We're talking wind gusts between 15 to 20. They ramp up by about 11 with wind gusts between about 30 to 40 miles per hour. They'll ramp up even further to up to about 45 miles per hour between about Thursday afternoon and Thursday evening, as Helene will be at its closest approach to us here in Central Florida. So certainly squally weather, gusty winds, and heavy rain. Because of all that heavy rain, we are extremely saturated. It won't take much to flood some of our neighborhoods that have been dealing with flooding troubles already for the past month. So an excessive rainfall outlook shows about a level 2. They're highlighted in yellow, about a level 1. So again, a lot of rain could come down in a short amount of time. And then we are also on a level 2 for severe weather risk as that tornado threat remains in place. So as we take you real quick, to give you kind of an idea of what's going on weather-wise, rain chances do increase after about 4 o'clock this afternoon, and then staying weather aware, especially as we head into your Thursday. I know that was so much information to download and kind of give you guys, but our web team has done phenomenal work working with us, with Michelle and I this morning, really ironing out those details. So if you want a county by county impact, if you live in Volusia and you want to know what Volusia County can expect, you live in Polk County, because Polk County versus Flagler County will be different in some ways. We have all of that on clickorlando.com. We have the timeline. We have county by county impacts. We have one for warnings and watches. So with all that information, if that was just too much for you to download on Breakfast with Bridgett this morning, we've got it all covered there on clickorlando.com.
Okay. We also have the Hurricane Tracker app, which helps you look at those conditions of these storms as they come through.
Exactly. It's really good for those quick cone updates, but if you really want to get into the nitty gritty, we have everything on our Pinpoint weather app too. So we've got you covered as well. We'll be doing hourly cut-ins on air too after the 9 a.m. National news ends. So wherever you need us, we will be there. Again, many of the schools closing for tomorrow, preparing
Mm-hmm.
for what could be kind of a rough day, but not
Yeah.
major hurricane status for us, but certainly will be for the Big Bend.
And it goes to show that it doesn't have to be directly hitting
Mhm.
us to really give us some conditions that are worthy of these closures and these
Exactly.
preparations.
Yeah, a
So
lot of school bus closures and a lot of people just trying to,
play it
side
safe.
on caution. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thank you so much, Candace,
You're
and we'll see you
welcome.
soon. Also, the
All right.
governor is coming up at 9:32, so I'll see you out there in the studio in a little bit.
Deal.
Okay,
Busy, busy
thanks.
day.
All
Yeah.
right.
Bye.
And so we want to check on those roads if you're getting ready to head out. And for some, this could be a shorter week out on the roads because once this weather shifts, you don't want to be out there on the roads unless maybe you're having to travel or evacuate. But meteorologist Michelle Morgan is over there in the traffic center for Trooper Steve this morning. Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning, Bridget. How are you?
I'm good. And we talked about how, some of the people in the panhandle evacuating and, maybe some of them heading inland here to Central Florida. But how are the roads looking this morning?
So far, so good. I'm tracking a little bit of congestion in a few areas, but I'm not tracking any major crashes, which is great news. So in and out of the city looks fine. I do want to show you a few traffic cameras. So I-4 east and west of 532, everything seems fine in that area. I am looking at some traffic buildup along I-4 westbound. This is right near mile marker 50.2, so right near the Highway 27 exit, even on that exit, exiting onto I-4, that off ramp, seeing some congestion as well. There isn't a crash or anything. This is just normal traffic. So if you're headed out that way, give yourself extra time. Looking pretty good here on 408 near Alafaya Trail, and then Redbug Lake Road near 417. No issues there. Looking at a crash here as you're heading towards, waiting for my graphic to load here. This is right near Osceola Parkway, eastbound, right near Old Dixie Highway crossing. I am getting reports that the right lane is currently blocked off in that area, so it is causing a little bit of traffic, so allow extra time. Other than that, traffic seems to be moving along pretty good in and out of the city for the most part. Looking green, seeing some reds, seeing some yellows, and a little bit of congestion here and there, but traffic seems to be moving along pretty smoothly at the moment, Bridget.
Okay, well, that sounds good for now. And, some people probably will just stay in tomorrow. So the roads will probably be pretty quiet, but we'll see how it goes.
Oh, yeah, especially with all the schools closed.
All right. Well, thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Getting back to Helene, we want to tell you about how people are preparing. So Central Florida, for the most part, will be spared from that direct hit, like we mentioned earlier, but we will feel some of those impacts in the conditions starting today. And like Candace mentioned, the farther west you are, the more you'll notice more intense conditions. So News 6's Mark Lehman headed out to Marion County today, where emergency officials are set to open a shelter this afternoon.
It's a precaution, just in case. It don't happen that much, but when it do, it really floods.
Gary Gabriel is one of several people we saw stocking up on sandbags in Marion County. As Helene is moving closer to Florida, he wants to make sure his home is protected in spots where he's had flooding in the past.
Where along your home do you plan to place these sandbags?
Probably at the garage door. That's where it happened last time, at the garage door.
Out of all of Central Florida, Marion is expecting to see some of the biggest impacts from the storm. Tropical storm force wind gusts and bands of heavy rain are possible on Thursday.
Just providing some updates about what other counties in the state might need and different orders they might be putting in with the Florida Division of Emergency Management.
Emergency management says they may bring in more crews to work longer hours during the storm. Their message for everyone is to spend today getting things ready around their home.
Let your past history be a good guide in this case. If you know that the area around your home or your home floods, go ahead and prepare now.
And that's certainly good advice as you think about those areas around you that tend to flood, and just, checking out your drains and different things around that to make sure that you're okay and that water can move on out. Speaking of the storm and the impact, we're hearing of more closures, like we mentioned. Thousands of students impacted, of course, by these impending conditions. Orange, Seminole, Osceola, Lake, and Volusia counties already announced classes will be canceled for Thursday, tomorrow, and Sumter County schools will be closed Thursday and Friday. We're still waiting to hear about Brevard and Flagler County schools to see if they'll be doing anything differently for tomorrow. And back to those preps, with Helene gaining strength and getting closer to Florida, almost the whole state under a state of emergency. The governor does that, of course, to make sure resources are available in case they're needed in different areas. So many people living along the Gulf Coast, of course, are bracing for this, some evacuating sooner rather than later. As he explains that people there are concerned about everything from the storm surge to power outages.
The one thing that is certain is we are going to see some impacts. So just prepare yourself accordingly.
Preparations are underway for thousands of Floridians living in the Panhandle and the Big Bend as Helene continues her path towards the state.
We anticipate the storm is likely to make landfall sometime on Thursday night. We will, of course, see impacts before then.
A mandatory evacuation order was put in place for nearly a dozen counties, including Taylor County. People there say they are trying to get ahead of it as much as possible after Hurricane Idalia hit last year.
For years and years, we didn't have any kind of storm here. I always thought the water was too shallow for a storm to actually come in here, and now we've had two in a year.
And so there you have it. And of course, as we continue to track all of this, you can track along with us with our Pinpoint Weather app and our Pinpoint Hurricane Tracker app. Search WKMG in your app store to get a hold of those, and you can check out the latest updates, watches, and warnings. Of course, if you don't have access to the apps, you can always check clickorlando.com for the latest coverage. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more top headlines. Welcome back. We're going to talk about some other headlines this morning. In Orange County, some school board members are working to get results following a recent spike in school threats. And so at least one member is calling for metal detectors to be installed and brought back despite the costs around making that happen. As News 6's Troy Campbell explains, it prompted some parents and leaders to clash about the best ways to keep schools safer.
If we were to bring it back, we just need to make sure that we would have hired staff that are designated for those metal detectors or a weapons detection screening system.
Orange County School District 3 board member Alicia Ferrand says something needs to be done to protect students after guns have been found on campus and threats have forced schools to lock down.
What was it like to get a text here in the past few days from your child inside of a school that was...
Terrifying, absolutely terrifying.
Judy Hayes with Mothers Demand Action says her child attends Boone High School, where this loaded 9mm handgun was found inside of a student's backpack on the 13th. At threats at both Maitland and Glenridge middle schools on the same day. Parts of a gun, including an extended magazine in a student's backpack inside Ocoee High School, and a precautionary lockdown at Apopka High School over a threat during a pep rally. Hayes says something must be done.
We're not putting them in every school, and so until we can find a solution that applies across the board and will help kids in every single school, it's not really fair to roll it out in certain schools.
Board member Ferrand agrees.
Yeah, I think we need to bring up our safety and security again and relook at how we are providing the safest environment for each school.
But school leaders say after getting rid of a metal detector program over lack of funding and staff last year, they have to take a hard look at what it would take to make it a reality.
It did not go the exact way that we thought it would. Sort of what was presented at the board table was it would be a smooth process. And what we saw, boots on the ground, it didn't go that way in every school.
All right, that was Troy Campbell reporting. So we'll let you know what they decide. School Board Chair Teresa Jacobs is also working on this to try to figure out what would be the best course of action in terms of responding to this uptick in threats. So we'll keep you posted on what happens with the school board and those security concerns at the schools. Now we want to go to an investigation, this one coming from News 6 investigator Mike DeForest, where A Central Florida man who reportedly suffers from dementia signed up for a matchmaking service. And so his family is saying that the 80-year-old, is in no condition to really determine how much this cost and, what he was signing up for. So they are, working to get back the money that was charged to his account because of this, what they call a financial mistake. So here is News 6 investigator Mike DeForest with more on that story.
Blake Mooney says his elderly father suffers from dementia and severe memory loss, which was made worse by a stroke. News 6 is not identifying the 80-year-old out of respect for his medical privacy.
I oversee his bills and his financial situation.
Mooney, who lives out of state, was shocked to discover a very large purchase on his dad's credit card bill from a business called the Matchmaking Company.
$8,495? What?
Mooney suspects his father, who's a widower, stumbled upon the website for the Matchmaking Company, which aims to create long-lasting, authentic, and loving relationships for its clients while setting them up on dates. Uber receipts show the 80-year-old took a ride share from his assisted living facility to the company's Winter Park office. Less than a half hour later, the elderly man reportedly signed this contract, which entitles him to 12 introductions, or possible dates, at a cost of more than $8,000.
He's not going on a date. He can't go on a date. He has dementia.
Mooney repeatedly called the matchmaking company, but says his attempts to cancel the contract and get a refund were ignored. So Mooney contacted News 6. I paid a visit to the matchmaking company's Winter Park office. No one here would speak to me about Mooney's dad, but later the company got in touch with Mooney and issued a partial refund of nearly $6,000. The matchmaking company did not respond to any of my questions. It issued that partial refund only after the family sent this letter from the elderly man's doctor confirming he does have dementia. Mike DeForest, Getting Results, News 6.
And now to a Consumer Reports story about smartwatches and children. So many parents are facing a dilemma these days with when or how to allow their children to use smartphones. And so now some people are turning to smartwatches as an alternative to sort of bridge the gap between that transition. And so there is at least one out there specifically designed for kids. And so today, News 6 insider and News 6 anchor Crystal Moyer has the lowdown on some high-tech watches from Consumer Reports that could be the perfect solution.
If you're not ready to hand your kid their first feature-filled smartphone just yet, but want them to stay in touch as they grow more independent, you're not alone.
So my kid was going to middle school, and I wanted to have some way for them to get in contact in the event of an emergency. I also like to be reassured that I can track their location and see where they are.
That's why some parents are turning to smartwatches instead of phones.
Kids' smartwatches offer a lot of the same communication benefits as a smartphone, like calling and texting, but with more security and privacy and control.
Most are standalone devices with cellular connections that don't require a smartphone. They offer lots of features beyond calling and texting, including music, games, alarms, step counters, and some even include video chatting.
Most offer GPS, which is one of the features that the parents I talked with cared about most.
Parents can use an app on their phones to track their kids' location, approve a list of contacts, and access other controls.
If you're looking to buy a kid's smartwatch that offers texting and calling, it's likely that you'll need to pay some monthly fee to access those features, probably around $10 a month.
The watchmaker or a wireless carrier provides service plans. Keep in mind that some smartwatches are only compatible with certain carriers. For example, the Gizmo Watch 3 requires a new or existing Verizon plan, while the TikTok 5 only works with AT&T or T-Mobile. Parents may want to consider other features, the number of contacts a watch allows, durability, fit, and battery life, as more advanced kids' smartwatches may need to be charged daily.
And of course, when you think about that, you want to see if the school allows these type of smartwatches. And, if they do, if there's a quiet mode that can be used while the kids are at school during school hours. Now we want to talk about hitting the road again. We just hit the road a week or so ago, went to Melbourne. So now we're headed to Pine Hills, and we want to tell the stories that you would like us to cover. So let us know at clickorlando.com/hits the road, and we look forward to that. And we'll have more in the coming days about where we'll be and what date that will be happening. Also, while you're online, head over to the Insider page. If you're not an insider, it is free to sign up. Then make sure you enter to win some of our contests. We are giving away some packs of tickets to Howl of Scream at SeaWorld. So we'll be giving out some packs of tickets, 4 packs of tickets for that. Enter as many times as you like, and we'll pick 2 winners next Monday, September 30th. So good luck on that one. So that's going to do it for us here on Breakfast with Bridgett. We will not see you tomorrow morning because we'll be in special coverage of Helene. So stay with us on News 6 and clickorlando.com. We'll also be streaming live here on News 6 Plus. Take care.